Welcome to Essential Ingredients, powered by Next Gen Purpose. EI serves up thoughtful conversations with industry leaders and pioneers who support a regenerative future for our food system. The stories shared by our guests are meant to spark curiosity and inspire informed global change.
Welcome to Essential Ingredients.
Thanks for having me. I love it.
I'm so glad you're able to join me. I'm your host, Justine Reichman, for the Essential Ingredients podcast. And today I'm so pleased to have with me Shareen Davis from Chatham Harvest Co-op. And she is both the program director and the cook. And I am just excited to learn more about you, Shareen, and the products that you specifically cook for. So if you would, for those not familiar with Chatham Harvest Co-op, as well as those products that you cook for,
Sure.
Maybe you can make a quick little intro for us.
Sure. So I'm Shareen Davis, and I'm from Chatham Harvesters Cooperative. And basically, our mission is to reconnect the seafood loving community with its local catch, the fishing families that catch it, and the ecosystem that provides it all. So basically, what we are doing is taking locally abundant seafood, and we are selling it direct to the community in different forms, whether it's filleted or it's a value-added product. So some of the fish that we are working with presently are that people might not know a lot about are skate, monkfish, dogfish, and dogfish. Dogfish, yes, dogfish.
That's new for me. I don't know that one.
So it's typically, basically, it's a white fish, and it's very abundant. It's not very expensive here on the Cape. And what we've been trying to do for the last 6 years is bring more attention to this particular product. And our fishermen handle their fish really well. So we're able to, make all kinds of different things. Right now we're doing dogfish fillets, which are very popular, but we're making what are called shark bites because they are a shark. They're another term for them are Cape shark. So we're making these sort of fish cakes, and we're calling them shark bites, and people love them. And we make chowder, monkfish chowder, which is a chowder base, very basic, good fish stock to begin with, monk, potato, onion, very basic, and it comes in its own liquid. You can add whatever you want to it. So if you're lactose intolerant, you might want to use a coconut milk. If if you would like a tomato base, you can do all kinds of things with that. We're also smoking fish. So we smoke mackerel. Mackerel is a very abundant seasonal fish on the Cape, and it's widely popular. We're also doing clam pies. We have a very prolific wild shell fisheries in Chatham and on the Cape. We have a lot of aquaculture. So we're taking what we have here and making things from them. So we're not importing anything, and we're supporting our local fishing fleet. We have a value statement to provide them with a fair price for their catch. And we also what we do is we educate the consumer so that they get to know their fishermen and know their catch. We label everything, what boat it came from. And in our social media promotion, we'll promote that captain's boat, his crew. We'll tell the lifestyle. We'll do all kinds of things that really sort of bring it home for somebody to sort of know their community fisheries.
So Shareen, why is it so important in this day and age to focus locally and on building the community there? Because in the past, we didn't focus on that. Why is it so important? And B, how do you think it came about to build community around this? What do you think Spirit really brought that to light all of a sudden? I mean, not all of a sudden today, but
right.
More recent times.
So a lot of things happened in fisheries, and not to complicate it, but it was regulatory issues that came up, over, overfishing in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, shifts and change in climate. But when I was younger and my husband and I were commercial fishing, people, they'd know what season a fish was, where it came from, it's April, the mackerel must be running in Chatham. Let's go down to the dock and grab a mackerel. So people had a better sense and understanding of the seasonality of their fish. when the regulars, this is my theory, it's not scientific by any means, but I lived in my community for a while, so I kind of get a sense of it. And when there was regulations started to happen, and they're starting to sort of guys weren't catching as much fish, particularly codfish. I think fish buyers, there was still consumer demand for it, so fish buyers would import to the Cape, fish from another port. Right now, they import a lot of codfish from Iceland. And so people haven't been aware. They're not aware that things aren't local anymore. And I think one of the biggest things on our menus right now on Cape Cod should be our local catch, but it's the two top things are salmon and shrimp, and neither one of them are local caught. Most of it that you get in the restaurants and some fish markets are farm raised, which you can debate the healthiness of a farm raised fish. So basically what we're saying is you can, with climate change and change in shifts, and now we have all these different species around us, and we have for the last 10 or 15 years, we're trying to market and educate the consumers and say, look, this is really healthy seafood. It's right in your back door. It's just, you haven't really tried it, try it. It's great. Monkfish tastes like lobster. Skate has a quality of codfish, like a scallop. And, dogfish is like any sort of white meat fish, like hake or cod. It's just a mild taste. So all these things are really important for us to be able to support our local fishing fleet and educate our customers and consumers.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And I'm curious, for those, because we talk a lot about farm raised, and one of the things I really like to do on the podcast is to level the playing field for everyone.
Sure.
And farm raised, is a big conversation. And I think that oftentimes we ask, but many times people don't actually know what it means to be farm raised. So if you could just go into that a little bit and explain what that means.
I'm not an expert on farm raised fish by any means. I've only wild caught, so I can only speak to what I see as a value to having something. I feel like it takes, we have a prolific wild shell fisheries and wild fisheries. It's, but there is this industrialization that and corporatization that's happened within the fisheries. And this, let's put pens out and and grow fish from it. This is an efficient way to grow and harvest seafood, but is it the healthiest way to do it? And is it good for the communities? Does it take away from that owner operator fishing boat captain that goes out? It just doesn't seem. It seems to be more of like a factory farming sort of scenario than it is a healthy way to produce seafood.
Have you gone and seen any farm raised? Have you gone to any communities or any places where you can see?
I have, and I get really concerned when I hear things like, we're going to do land-based fish farming, and there is pushes in different states for this to happen. And again, I think the argument has always been, there is an abundance of seafood, and we can manage this well, and this is a way that we lower the carbon footprint. But basically, it's impacting the land mass, and I don't know. I don't want fish that's raised on land. We have a healthy ocean. We should be. Yeah.
But I can't even envision, and I'm not judging one way or another, right?
Yeah. No.
I can't even envision though raising it on land. Like that's not something I can wrap my head around. Maybe
me neither.
Okay, so I don't know what that would look like. I'm curious because it's new and it's innovative, and I'm not saying that that's where I want it to go. I'm just saying I'm curious and I want to learn. Which is why I asked you what your experience has been and what you've seen. So mostly because I'm unfamiliar with it.
So I have experienced aquaculture, which is sea farming for shellfish, and that's done and managed very well. And it's managed by, mostly owner operators, small boat fishermen in Massachusetts. The style that we're doing isn't these big industrial companies coming in and saying, you know what, we're going to, take over a whole town's resource and acres and acres of land. This is like individuals, like in wealthy Massachusetts, they're all like one guy with 2 acres of land in the ocean where he cultivates clams, hard-shell clams and oysters. And then he and his other guys around him, probably 100 other guys, collectively, sell their product to different companies. And wealthy oysters are some of the most famous oysters in the country, or probably around the world.
Yeah,
so I mean, that kind of aquaculture or farming, if farm raised, has a little more of a community sustainability factor to it. And they're highly regulated by state and local authorities. So I think when we look at farm raised fish, you're often looking at corporate entities doing that. It's typically not individuals doing that kind of effort.
Yeah, I could see where that could fall into this and how that could be expanding the market there. Which I think.
So we've been a result of that with the salmon fisheries. Obviously, I get my salmon from the guys in Alaska. I'll order from those guys who'll ship here and whatnot. And that's great because I know it's all wild caught and it's delicious.
Okay, so to that point, right? Let's talk about eating locally. Let's talk about your local fisheries. And you get your salmon from Alaska. So I know that eating locally is big, building your community with your local fisheries. But you can't get everything there. And so you want to get your salmon from Alaska because you prefer your wild caught salmon from Alaska versus your farm raised salmon. Right, exactly. Yeah. So, I'd love to hear from you. How do you, decide what you're going to do, how you're going to do that, and, to make the choice to get the wild caught as opposed to just focusing on locally, which there's no judgment for me. I'm just trying to understand where your head is at and how people can make an informed choice here, because to me, it's all about balance, right?
Yes, totally it is. And understandably, I can hear somebody say, oh my gosh, she's talking about climate change and she's having her fish shipped from Alaska. But I don't do it often. I do it as, once a year or something, I might get something. But what I'm part of and what our organization supports is a organization called localcatch.org, which is a network of core-based, businesses like ours that value the ecosystem, value the community that's, working, on the water and the fish that they're catching. So we have friends in Alaska doing similar things that we're doing. So we're sort of connected in that way. And that's a nice thing to do. And matter of fact, localcatch.org, you can go on their website and you can find locally sourced fish all over the country. They have sort of a mapping that they do, which is really kind of interesting. So there might be some guys in California that are part of that, and Alaska, and then down in the Carolinas, Louisiana, Florida. So we're all sort of interconnected. But again, speaking to that locality sort of issue is we are those folks that are saying, here you have this abundant protein, it's healthy, try it. It's not your typical. And we've had, a really good success story around it. And we love to teach people about our fish and how to cook it and how to prepare it. So when we're doing farmers markets, it's really interesting that people will say, okay, I'll try the dogfish. How should I cook it? And we're fully prepared to tell them, some basics, and we support them with some recipes. And, we don't have a hotline, not that, people are, they're savvy. They can get on the internet and they can find stuff and things like that. But it's fun. I mean, it's fun to talk about what we have here and to sort of, that brings a lot of value to the people that are catching it. And they feel proud in their effort. And that's part of some of the things that have happened with fishermen that have been so highly regulated and told that they've, they're they're not doing good by the kind of fishing they're doing. This is more about, it's about a community sort of connection. So it's happening all over the country. It's just we're here on the Cape. Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, I love fish. I eat a lot of fish, as we kicked off our conversation before we got started talking about Wellfleet and oysters and all sorts of things, and my love of clams. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the, talking about creating the lab grown fish. Do you have any thoughts?
That just like, all I can think of is Frankenfish, and I work with a lot of scientists. We work with a lot of scientists in our lives as fishers. We have collaborations oftentimes. But again, this is it necessary that we start to produce, lab-based foods? I mean, why aren't we going back to a more sustainable ways of raising and sourcing our foods?
Right.
Wouldn't that be the best way to do it? I just, I'm just not, we put so much different things in our bodies now. I think the cleaner we eat, the better we are. And I'm not sure, I can't even wrap my head around that right now.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I got to ask because, there's all these new innovations around us. And I mean, part of it is, people trying to find alternatives. There's people that don't eat fish, that want the taste of fish, all sorts of things, right?
And I also think it's sourcing too, whether it's available in their communities. Let's talk about, the Midwest or food deserts within cities or whatever. I mean, where can people get healthy food and protein? I mean, it's not just seafood if you look at a bigger picture. So, I don't know. I mean, if where does somebody from Kansas City get their fish? Do they get it from a big food hub that's shipping in fish, or, and where's it coming from? So, I don't know. I mean, we're lucky. We're lucky we're on the coasts. We can access this. We can often access, and we may pay a premium price for it. But you have to recognize there are people that are needing to eat, want to eat fish that is, doesn't have a high cost to it. So
yeah, of course.
Well, high price. I'm not talking cost is health too. So.
Yeah, yes, of course. I mean, I told you that. I mean, I don't know if I told you. I went to the farmer's market by my house here in Marin. And I really wanted a lobster. I haven't had one in so long, not living on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And they're not expensive on the East. I mean, they're affordable on the East Coast, or at least they were the last time I lived in New York. Okay? I don't know what's affordable anymore, but
prices vary.
Prices vary. But in any case, I went to the farmer's market and they bring them in from Maine, and it was like $40 a pound for an uncooked lobster.
And the fisherman probably got $8 for that.
I have no idea, but I was like, that is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was like, that's ridiculous, $40 a pound for an uncooked lobster. Given I'm from the East Coast, and I remember, going to get a lobster, and I remember going in Maine in Bath to go get lobsters, and all these different places. I was like, that's ridiculous. I was like, I can go back to New York, on a plane and get lobster.
I was talking to a friend who lives in New York City last year, and she shot this picture of a fish market in her neighborhood, and it said Nantucket Bay scallops, $85 a pound.
Wow.
And right.
Oh
and
God.
I knew what these guys were getting a pound, and it was anywhere near 80. And I just got this really sad email yesterday that they're having trouble marketing and getting rid of their scallops this year because there's an abundance of them in other parts of the Cape. And it's really, price is such a factor with fishermen. They're either getting this high price or super low, and it depends on volume and everything. So it's, for the consumer.
$5?
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody deserves to make a living wage. Everybody deserves to get paid appropriately and make their money. But I think when there's these really, really high prices, like $85 or $40 a pound for an uncooked lobster, like that to me is just, I don't want to call it price gouging, but it's like when the toilet paper was $20 when we had
Yeah.
COVID at the beginning, you know what I mean? Like, if it's a fair price, I believe people deserve to be paid.
Well, there's layers to that cost that once it got to you. And that's some of the things we're trying to address in a more local way is, you know, we want fishermen to have a fairer price, and oftentimes we're able to pay them 20% above their auction price that they would be getting if they sold it in New Bedford. But at this point, we're not able to do a high volume. We're just we're a startup per se. We have a great customer base and we're building on that. But it's really interesting that we want people to be able to pay for it and afford it as well. So we're trying to find that balance. And being a cooperative, we sort of can, because we're sort of like, in that sort of way where we can do farmers markets, direct sales. Hey, come down to our processor, knock on the door, we'll sell you some fish. We're kind of an organic sort of anomaly right now, and people love it. People love it.
I think that's great. And I think that the mentality has changed a little. I remember when I was younger and I grew up in New York City and everybody wanted a deal. Not that we all don't want a deal, but I feel like everybody just wanted to haggle a lot more. And I feel now I really want to make sure that everybody's getting paid fairly. And I don't want to overpay, but we all want to make sure that, I have a startup too, and this one does. And I think everybody just needs to make a living, be able to pay their rent, pay their healthcare, put food on the table for their kids and their family. And I think that's the point, right? We can't all do these things, make the world a better place, but just take.
Right. So, excuse me, we end up oftentimes talking with the fishermen about their price. We'll say, so, what do you think is the best deal? What do you need, or what do you think, what do you want for this? What they're used to are fish buyers doing exactly what you say. They're haggle them down. They'll say, oh, we can't do that. We get to, now you're going to kill me. You're going to kill my profit. And, this is the sort of the world that fishermen have lived in. So we value you. We want to work with you, and we work with the customer and consumer to educate them so they value you too.
I think that at the end of the day, what I found with my startup and through the last 10 years is it's really about transparency and being direct.
Yeah.
Where in the past, it was more about keep holding it close to the vest and not sharing everything. But now, if you're open and you're honest, and you don't need to, say everything, but really being forthcoming about the expenses and this and that, and everybody's got expenses, but to say, this is where I'm at. In order for me to be able to do this, I need to do this, and you're being transparent. If people know that you're only making 10% and you're not gouging them, they're going to feel better about it.
Yes.
And I think that, at a certain point, when you get to be really big and everything, that's a different story, right? You're playing a different game, but we're talking about small startups, and we're talking about in the beginning when you're establishing relationships and rapport.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and that sets the tone for going forward. When we have to sometimes check ourselves and look back and say, oh, we're thinking about expanding to some X. Well, have we talked to the fishermen in that area? Is there collaboration opportunities we can do? We don't want to overstep our bounds to what they're already working on. So what we're trying to do, you might have some listeners saying, they're never going to make it with this kind of business model. This is not, but this is how I like to work. This is how our co-op members like to work. And, I think we have a good thing that we're doing. We feel good at the end of the day.
I think so. And I think, as you evolve, as we evolve, as you grow, we have to grow up. We have to do things differently, and we will have to adjust, right? You're not always going to do everything like that. You may not lay all your cards out on the table, even when you're negotiating, even when you're creating partnerships. But when you are making those initial partnerships, and we're talking about, how many customers or how you're doing in the beginning, I think it's really important to be transparent. You don't want to oversell and underdeliver.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's really important. So what's new and what's next for you guys on the horizon?
So what we're doing is we are going to expand some of our food that we're doing and expand the shark bites that I talked about earlier, making these fish cakes out of dogfish. And we are actually launching a membership share program, kind of like a community supported aquaculture, agriculture CSAs, where you go to the farm and you pick up your bag of, well, we do it with fish. But what we do is we're offering an opportunity for folks to sign up for 3 months, and they have a menu of things that they can choose from, including some frozen products, value-added products and fresh products. And they have 3 months. They can pay, anywhere from $100 to $500 for the 3 months. And they basically buy down and they get a credit for the money that they do up front. We're able to support our local fishing fleet, and they get to buy down through the three months, get their fish once a week at different locations around the Cape. And in turn, they will also be able to come and see some cooking demonstrations. We get recipes. We're sort of writing this sort of tale of, stories about around the shore, so they get to know the fishermen better. And in September, we're going to host a membership harvest festival, like a harvest dinner, where you can come and enjoy some seafood with the fishermen and the co-op members.
Nice. That sounds exciting. I hope you'll keep me up to date. So the next time I'm on the Cape, I can participate or pop
Absolutely.
by. And if folks wanted to check out your website, learn more about it, or for those on the East Coast or up in Massachusetts, how might they go about checking you guys out and learning more?
Our website is easy. It's chathamharvesters.com, or you can get on our Instagram social media at Chatham Harvesters, and you'll be led to those directions.
Thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Hey, thank you. It's been lovely talking to you. Really appreciate it.
Likewise. And I hope you'll send us maybe some, winter recipes that we can share with our folks.
We will.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
To learn more about these episodes and access show notes, go to nextgenpurpose.com and choose podcast. If you like this episode, head to Apple Podcasts or your favorite platform to subscribe and leave us a review. Visit the Next Gen Purpose YouTube channel to subscribe to our EI videocast and give this episode a like while you're there. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Next Gen Purpose, and connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Justine_Reichman. Thanks for joining us.